Today for Devotions with Daniella, we are reading White Women Get Ready, How Healing Post-Traumatic Mistress Syndrome Leads to Anti-Racist Change. This is a book that I am reading for my own process of deconstructing the delusion of white supremacy, and if you would like to read it with me, you can get copies here. This is Chapter 10, Love and Marriage. By marriage, the husband and wife are one person in law. That is, the very being or legal existence of the woman is suspended during marriage, or at least is incorporated and consolidated into that of the husband, under whose wing, protection, and cover she performs everything. Sir William Blackstone. We do not have to love. We choose to love. Bell Hooks. Once upon a time, I tried being married, and it was surprisingly hard. Relationships in general are hard, and long-term committed ones are next-level difficult. That part I had expected. No, the unexpectedly hard part of the marriage was not working out our differences, not communicating the complex feelings, nor even navigating conflict. Although all of these were hard, I can't say we ever really figured them out. The hard part I had not anticipated was the relentless pressure to conform to a white, heteronormative family ideal, and the expectation that no matter what, you stay married. If you had a childhood devoid of purity culture or conservative Anabaptism, try to stay with me here. The pressures and privileges of white heteronormativity have still likely influenced your perspectives on family, but possibly not the same way. While it is said that half of all marriages in the U.S. end in divorce, this had only been the case for one marriage in both of my extended families. Staying married was not some fairy tale. It was the only option on the menu. I married one of my best friends soon after college. A few years younger than 2009 U.S. standards, we were plenty mature by Mennonite ones. Many of our peers had followed the ways of our parents by finding the one right Mennonite life mate at a Mennonite college. Even before we graduated, we had already received dozens of wedding invitations from classmates and cousins. Our engagement was practical and mutual, the way I imagine my parents and grandparents must have been. My year of voluntary service was going to end, and it didn't make financial sense for us to pay the rent to live separately when we could pay once. Even though we had already lived together as platonic housemates, once we started dating, the option of living together was not something we considered. Living together while dating implied sex before marriage. Our families would never approve. Instead of joining many of our non-religious peers in moving in together, we did what my parents had done and their parents before. We got married. Years later, I wonder if we hadn't felt so much pressure to not look like we were having extra/premarital sex, would we have still chosen this moment to get engaged? If the financial incentive hadn't existed, would we have even wanted to cohabitate? The marriage talk happened one evening while we were hanging out in my room. Do you want to talk about getting engaged? I asked matter-of-factly. Sure, was his response. We planned a nice dinner to mark the occasion and decided to exchange gifts instead of rings. Like many betrothed people, I entered marriage with enthusiasm and optimism that we could make our relationship work for the particulars of us. I had always liked boys and knew I really liked this one. I had always craved attention, connection, and collaboration, and a lifelong partnership seemed to offer an excellent container for that. Besides, I had always liked a challenge, and defying cultural norms from within was the kind of subversion I was into. At the moment, all this made excellent sense to me. Our wedding ceremony in several ways was non-traditional. We had everyone sit in a circle outside on a communal farm. Instead of a groom waiting at the altar for his bride's father to give her away, we both entered the circle at the same time with our parents. Instead of exchanging rings, we wove ribbons into a weaving, and so did our guests. She is a PhD in weaving. My dress was turquoise and cream. While we both had vows, our family and community members did too. And we were publicly explicit about many other things. We used the gender-neutral term partner instead of referring to each other as husband or wife. We planned on living communally with other people. We both kept our last names and even entertained taking my mother's family name. We were 99% certain that we didn't want to have children. Even though I knew about and disagreed with the sexism, classism, and racism built into the legal and religious construct of marriage, I was not prepared for the constant marriage-specific ways patriarchy had us in its scope. One early affront came at our wedding. Minutes after the ceremony, in our receiving line, a family friend gave me a warm hug of congratulations and expressed their excitement for us to have kids. I was too surprised to respond. We hadn't mentioned anything about wanting children in the ceremony. Strange. Why would they make that assumption? But they were older and my parents' friend. Lots of our peers had had weddings recently. Maybe they were confusing us with another couple. I wrote it off as a mistake and kept it moving. There were other guests to greet. But then, right there in the receiving line, it happened again. A dozen or so guests later, this time someone much closer to my age alluded to us becoming parents. Then a family member did the same, and so did a childhood friend. By the third or fourth parenting child reference, my confusion shifted to irritation. I began to respond with a stifled politeness. Thank you, but we probably won't have kids. That night in our hotel room, exhausted from months of wedding buildup and celebration, I remember mentioning to my partner how annoying it was that everyone was talking to us about being parents. Oh, he responded, no one said anything about kids to me. This was the first of many times I would receive a specific, racialized, gendered reinforcement around being married, and he would not. The wicked webs were reminding me that white women were supposed to have white babies, and our marriage signaled it was now time for me to do my part. And while these parent-child references may seem insignificant and well-intentioned, they built up, in the same way that the smallest adaptations in footwear have a big impact on one's gait over time. The wicked webs have become so efficient. All they need are these slightest of constant corrections to ensure conformity and exhaust resistance. By the 9th future children reference in the wedding receiving line, I smiled back, too tired to expend the energy. I've been very critical of our mother's complicity in patriarchy's arrangement, but in looking back, I realize how it only took one night for me to run on silence, too.